Welcome back, everybody, to the First Strike Podcast. I am your host, and I go by the Marathon Don. Here in the First Strike Podcast, we strike first and we talk later, and we're back. Thank you, everybody, for making this the fastest growing combat sports podcast around the world with a little bit over 16,000 subscribers in less than 6 months. And it's all thanks to you. So make sure that you like, comment, and share the content. My commitment to you guys is every week bring you a fresh episode of the content you love. That's MMA, boxing, and WWE. And every single day I drop a little bit of YouTube short content, combat sport related. So make sure you tune into your channel. This is the cultural hub for combat sports. And this week we're talking about Khamzat Chimaev, the brand new undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world. Wow, UFC 319 was a spectacular event. I mean, one of the first times in history where in the same night there were two brutal knockouts by spinning back elbow. Not even a back fist, it was a back elbow. And here in the First Strike Podcast, we're gonna talk all about UFC 319. So let's get right into it. Where are we going to start? We're going to start with the main event, of course. Coming into this fight, everyone was questioning Chimaev's cardio. When he fought Gilbert Burns, when he fought Usman, those guys made it out the first round. And what we saw was a decrease in the cardio of Chimaev. He looked tired after the first round because he goes all out. In fact, when he fought Usman arguably won he actually won the third round and arguably won the fight, right? Some people were scored it for Usman because Chimaev just gassed so much. He put so much energy into taking out his opponents in the first round that those that make it at the first round, they have success. They find success later on in the fight. Dricus Du Plessis is known for having insane cardio and has gone the 5-round distance multiple times, where Chimaev has never done that. So all the questions coming to this fight is Chimaev can make it, if DDP can make it past the first round, is that going to affect Chimaev cardio? Can DDP weather the storm and then eventually have his cardio take over the fight in round 3, round 4, round 5, where Chimaev has never had a 5-round fight in the UFC? Not only did DDP survive the first round, but to everyone's surprise, Chimaev's cardio was next level. I've never seen him in better shape. He completely dominated DDP from the opening bell to the closing bell, all 5 rounds. In my prediction, I thought that if Chimaev was going to win, it was going to be in the first round. I'm like, there's no way DDP is going to survive the storm. He's going to get taken down and probably choked out. I mean, this guy Chimaev is so aggressive, and we've seen DDP been taken down before, like when he fought Derek Brunson, and he was kind of controlled the first round. So I thought if Chimaev's going to win, he's going to win the first round. I thought that if Chimaev, if DDP made it past the first round, he was going to be able to take over the fight because Chimaev was going to gas. But to everyone's surprise, not only did he not gas, it looked like he stepped down on the gas and was able to outwork, outmuscle, outcondition DDP. And the funny thing is that his style is so intoxicating, you could literally see the life being drained out of DDP. Takedown after takedown after takedown. I mean, that body lock he had, it almost looked like it was impossible for DDP to break down. And every time he got up, that he was never able to successfully break the body lock. So every time he got up, he got taken right back down with the body lock. And he was able to transition to a crucifix 2-3 times during the fight. I think the final numbers of strikes, it was like over 500 strikes to like 75 landed for DDP. It was utter dominance. In the post-fight press conference, Dana White said that he had every round almost 10-8. And honestly, I agree with him. I thought that there was a round that the referee might have actually jumped in and stopped the fight. I was scared. I'm like, okay, he's in the crucifix. He cannot get out. It looked like he was working so hard to try to get out. And he actually looked helpless. Like there was a point, I believe it was like on the 3rd or 4th round, when he got him in the crucifix again. And this time he held him for the longest period of time. And DDP looked helpless. I just think that Chimaev's takedown, the way he comes in, the way he grapples, is so dominant. And it's not necessarily about just out-muscling him. It's almost like out-positioning them. Like he just has a good grasp of how to hold the body and use that control to dominate the fight. DDP couldn't do anything. The short amount of time that they stood I mean, Chimaev looked great. He was throwing front kicks. He was throwing strikes. DDP looked good too. I think he caught him with one good punch, but it was so limited, and the threat of the takedown was so imposing that DDP was not able to chain anything together. What a dominant victory for Chimaev. Congratulations to the new, undefeated, undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world. What a fantastic main event. All the heart, all the congratulations, all the praise to DDP as well. He has the heart of a champion. Never once in the fight did he give up on himself. Didn't get submitted, didn't get knocked out, went the full distance. And honestly, he still looked pretty good at the end of the fight in terms of physically and cardio. Didn't take too much damage. A lot of the 500 shots that were shots, on the ground and in grappling position. So it wasn't shots that had too much power behind it. But boy, oh boy, was he completely out-grappled, out-positioned, and dominated. And I think that for Chimaev, this was that, like, he's already had several breakthrough performances, in my opinion, but this was the feather on the cap. Like, I mean, what he did to everybody was fantastic, but this was just next level. To do that to DDP, who was carving out a fantastic legacy in the middleweight division, is just next level, and really puts him with the elite of the middleweight division. Like, and honestly, possibly greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. You have to also say that he's one of the greatest grapplers of all time. We got to put him up there with Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev, and GSP as one of the greatest of all times. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if some folks think that he is the best grappler of all time, because I don't recall Khabib finishing opponents the way Chimaev is doing. I don't recall GSP smothering the opponents the way that Chimaev did to DDP, and putting them in horrible positions. Like that crucifix, it looked like the type of things that nightmares are made out of. I don't remember GSP doing that to everybody. Like, they all had great grappling and took down their opponents, but the level of dominance and just utter helplessness that Chimaev imposes on his opponents is next level, and it's something that we've never seen before. I think he's a nightmare matchup to every contender in the middleweight division, and I can't wait to see who he fights next. For DDP, I think that he was a great champion, a great ambassador for his country, and he should go back to the drawing board. I think there's so many great matchups in the division. Someone like Fluffy, Anthony Hernandez, that would be a great fight, right, for him to come back to. I don't think he has an opponent yet. MVP just beat Jared Cannonier. That could be another good fight that they could make, or it's coming up on the horizon. MVP is chaining together wins at the middleweight division. So I think for Dricus Du Plessis, I think those are two matchups, maybe like an MVP type of matchup, or like an Anthony Hernandez, up and rising contender that hasn't fought anybody in the top 5 yet. I think those are the fights that I would like to see. For Chimaev, I think that right now he's just in a very, very exciting place, and I think that the next contender that should get a crack at the title should be RDR, who just finished Bo Nickel and just beat Robert Whittaker. I think styles make matchups, and that would be a fascinating matchup because RDR has fantastic grappling as well. So, even if he does get taken down, the threat off the back is greater than anyone else in the division. So congratulations to Chimaev, just complete utter dominance, one of the best grapplers in the world, and honestly, probably of all time. So in the co-main event, it was Aaron Pico's debut versus Lerone Murphy, and can we just say that Aaron Pico probably had one of the toughest debut matchups right next to Patricio Pitbull. They gave Patricio Pitbull Yair, and they threw Aaron Pico to the deep end against Lerone Murphy, an undefeated, ranked number 6 in the 145-pound division. And this was that was a stiff test. Like, the UFC is not doing these former Bellator fighters no favors at all. So let's be honest, Aaron Pico looked good. He looked much better than Apache Mix, who made his debut and looked completely flat. He came in with those combinations. He had some really good takedowns, but he was just so aggressive, like way too aggressive. And if you're going to be that aggressive, you either have to have really focus on one discipline that's going to allow you or prevent you from taking damage. For example, be very aggressive with the wrestling, or be aggressive with the striking, but also you got to manage your head movement. Because the thing about it is, if you're so aggressive, then you're going to be jeopardizing your defense at the stake, trying to get more offense. So I think that you need a balance. And he was just go, 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 go. He was pressuring Leon so much that Murphy was just, backing up against the cage the majority of the time. But that allowed Pico to get countered. And that was just a beautiful spinning back fist. Back elbow, it landed completely flush, and that had to be one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen with a spinning back elbow ever. Completely put him out. I think that, for debuts, that has to be one of the worst debuts I've ever seen. Like if I was a UFC fighter, pardon me, if I was a Bellator fighter and I'm making my debut, I'd rather have a stale performance like Apache Mix and blame it on the octagon jitters than to completely get laid out like Aaron Pico. Like where do you go from here? Like that was a horrible knockout. He's probably gonna have to take the rest of the year off. Got no momentum. He was thrown into the deep end and got knocked out in round one. And a lot of people are going to be questioning. There's going to be a lot of questions he has to answer. Is he a fraud? Is what happened? Like he came in with all his buzz and got knocked out. And I think that he's always had a very aggressive style, and he's been knocked out before, and it's not a good look because he's so young and he's been knocked out so many times, and he hasn't even cracked the top 10, top 5 of the UFC division. So it's like, if you're getting knocked out by everybody outside the top 5, what that tells about your skills, and it's very possible his chin might be gone, similar to like a Cody Garbrandt, right? Like once you got cracked that first time, your chin never really recovered. So for Aaron Pico, definitely take the rest of the year off. He should come back next year and fight someone outside the top 10, maybe someone in the bottom 15. And he got to try to build himself back on, but he got to stop taking damage. He's really going to have to turn into a grappler, or at least use his grappling, or just be more patient in order to build some wins. For Leon Murphy, I think that he earned the title shot against Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski has fought so many of the contenders in the weight class that it'll be pretty exciting to see him find a new contender, unless he fights Evolve. So I think Evolve and Murphy are great. Regardless, I think Murphy should wait for his title shot because, he's undefeated. That was a brutal performance against a debuting, very, very popular fighter, and he completely put him out. So congratulations to Leon Murphy, and for Aaron Pico, please take some time off. The third fight of the night, we had Jeff Neal versus Carlos Pradas. And let's talk about Carlos Pradas. One of the coolest fighters. He just oozes charisma. So much fun to watch. Part of the coolest cigarette smoker I've ever seen, and he's just really, really cool guy. Jeff Neal, a good, powerful striker, very quiet, very humble, but always comes to fight. And Pradas puts him down with a beautiful spinning back elbow. And I think that, it seemed like Jeff Neal was really trying to work his combinations in the pocket, and he was using some nice leg kicks from the outside. Carlos Pradas looked gigantic in the octagon, also using his leg kicks from the outside. And I just think that he has more weapons in his arsenal than like a Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal has, to me, he's almost like a typical, I didn't want to say a kickboxer, but he's more of a boxer, where he really relies on his hands and typical common boxing combinations. So when he throws a kick, it's not really in a fluid combo. He's either throwing kicks or he's throwing punches. When he throws punches, he's throwing basic boxing combinations. So to me, I just feel like Carlos Pradas had way more weapons in his arsenal, and they were at full display. Every time they got close, he was throwing knees, he was throwing kicks, he was throwing spinning back kicks, spinning head kicks, and he put him out with the spinning back elbow. It was a beautiful knockout for Carlos Pradas. He really needed his win after losing to Ian Gary. So I think this puts him right back to building that momentum and working his way into the top of the division. As far as what's next for him, I just think that you should just continue to give him strikers, continue to give him a good matchup so he could chain together some wins and continue to build him as a star. For Jeff Neal, back to the drawing board, right? I think that Carlos Pradas, he called out MVP, who fights at middleweight, and MVP said he wants to fight him in Brazil in October. So I think that'll be a fantastic matchup. I don't want to see MVP move up and down weight, but if he decides to do it, I think it's a great matchup. But I'd rather see MVP stay at middleweight. And for Carlos Pradas, I think there's many other 170-pounders that he could fight, right, that are exciting and would make fantastic matchups. Besides that, the second fight of the night, it was Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page, in a fight where Michael Venom Page looked like he was just straight out of the Matrix. It was beautiful to watch. It was really poetry in motion. His style is tailor-made for stand-up fighters, just to counter them. He was so elusive. He looked beautiful. His head kicks, his punches, he was in, out. He was just dodging all of Jared Cannonier's combinations, and Jared Cannonier looked like he had no answers. He looked like he was lost. He was confused. He was getting frustrated. None of his combos were landing. When he would get close in the pocket, Michael Venom Page would just be a step faster, a step quicker, swiftly out the way, and bow, just kind of right back to really stop and halt the momentum of Jared Cannonier. And he was never really able to build any momentum until he started going to the grappling. And I think that no matter what Michael Venom Page does, I think that's always going to be the kryptonite and the blueprint. You want to get past Michael Venom Page, you're going to have to go through your grappling. And he's no slouch in the grappling department either. Like, he was able to quickly get out of some positions like the mount and stuff like that. But he's not going to be the type of guy to get back to his feet very fast. So I think that right there is a blueprint. And for Jared Cannonier, he should have done that earlier. Like, it's not the most fan-friendly style to watch. Like, if you're just going to go to takedowns and you're not really, a grappling wizard, but you know what? It would have been effective, and you could have used it to tire out making Michael Venom Page. But unfortunately for Jared Cannonier, it was too little too late. MVP racked up too many style points, and he got a well-deserved victory. And I'm such a big MVP fan. I thought that he had a good campaign at the 170-pound division, but at the middleweight division, he's undefeated. He's 2-0. He beat the Bullet, and now he beat Jared Cannonier. And I kind of want to see him stay at the middleweight division. What does an MVP versus Robert Whittaker look like, right? I mean, that now's the perfect time to get that Robert Whittaker matchup, right? There's so many other fascinating fights. What about a Sean Strickland, a Paulo Costa? I think that MVP should consider staying at middleweight. I don't want to see him drop down. I've seen so many instances where fighters, they go up and down in weight, and then it just messes up their cardio, and they're never able to regain it back. So I'd rather see MVP at 185. He looks big, he looks strong, he looks healthy, and most importantly, he looked energetic. He was able to keep up his cardio for 3 rounds, and I think that it was a really masterful performance. I think the only round that he lost was a round that Jared Cannonier kind of held him there, but really didn't do too much damage. So I think that a Sean Strickland and a Paulo Costa are fantastic matchups, or Robert Whittaker. All three would continue to move his campaign towards the upper echelon of the division. For like a Jared Cannonier, I think that he might have hit his ceiling. He might be the middleweight gatekeeper of the division, which is still not a bad place to be. And for someone like him, I just think that he just go back to the drawing board. Just keep fighting up and coming contenders. If they get past him, it's almost like a stamp of approval. And he's almost kind of like the new Yoel Romero, where he's not going to be the champion, but he's a tough outing for everybody. And if you get past him, it's almost like you're ready for the championship and the upper echelon of the division. So I think that he should embrace that position. Nothing wrong with that. Get your checks, chin check everybody, and go out there and put on some amazing performances. So that's my analysis of that fight. Congratulations to both guys. In the curtain opener, Tim Elliott defeated Kai Asakura by submission. That's great for the flyweights. Another big notable, that was a good fight. And there were some other good fights in the undercard. Edison Barboza losing to Dricus close. But one thing that I do want to talk about is it's our friend here that defeated Chase Hooper and Alexander Hernandez. And this is someone that people had counted out for so many times in his career. He was a prospect at a time, lost to Cowboy Cerrone back in the day and just was never able to chain it together. Lost a total of 8 times, right? And Chase Hooper was like this whiz kid that's basically growing up in the UFC. We never really seen him truly get knocked out before until this past Saturday. And I think that, that was a very surprising knockout. I don't know what his strategy was. I think that if you're the grappling whiz kid, you really got to go in and go for that takedown. I think that he might have taken Hernandez a little bit too lightly, and he was standing up with him, and that's always going to be a challenging position for him with a stand-up. We've seen him against Caceres and other opponents that had a lot of success in stand-up, so I think that you really got to, I mean, even someone like Chimaev, who's probably the greatest grappler of all time, he has good stand-up, and he doesn't stand up very long. Chase Hooper does not have good stand-up, so you definitely shouldn't be standing up long at all. Like, as soon as the bell ring, go for that takedown, or use your striking to set up the takedown. Like, you should not be breathing or engaging in any type of stand-up combat. Like, that's not your area of expertise. You got to play to your strength. So I think that is a devastating loss, but he's so young that he'll come back for it. And then for Hernandez, this could be the start of a career resurgence. I think he needed it. It was a must-win fight, and he puts away the young, hot prospect Wiz Kid brutally by knockout. So fantastic card overall. I loved it. I give the overall card a 9 out of 10. Probably one of my favorite pay-per-view cards of the years. Just so exciting. So UFC, great job from start to finish. Every card, every fight delivered. I hope all the fighters get paid very handsomely. And once again, such a great night of fight. So big shout out to UFC and Dana White for a wonderful card. So that wraps it up for this episode of the First Strike Podcast. If you rock with me, make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment on this video. Every single week, we got a brand new podcast episode talking about what's going on in the combat culture and recapping UFC and boxing cards, as well as a little bit of WWE. So make sure you tune in. I go by the Marathon Don, and I am out.